What happened?
Someone set up us the bomb. We get signal.
What?
Main screen turn on.
It's you.
How are you, gentlemen? All your base are belong to us. You are on the way to destruction.
What you say?
You have no chance to survive, mate, your time. Ha ha ha. All your base, all your base, are belong to us. All your base, all your base, are belong to us. All your base, all your base, are belong to us. All your base, all your base, are belong to us. All your base, all your base, all your base, are belong to us. All your base, all your base.
What's up, everybody? This is Gino Cuddy, and I'm coming to you with a new episode of Cuddy's World. I am recording at 1:50 a.m. on May 18th, 2017. We're going to be talking today about Cooper's Half Hours, a TV show that only aired once in 1980. Well, that's not completely true. I mean, it was a 6-part series that aired on Thames Television in the UK in 1980. And this was a weird experience for me. Because here's the thing. Here's the thing. Being a fan of a comedian who is more well known in his native country than this, a foreign country, it's weird to, dive into this material not knowing what to expect. You walk into it almost blindfolded. And this is probably the weirdest of the experiences that I had with his material. I mean, I have box sets of his stuff that I ordered from the UK. I mean, it's like the stuff takes over a month to get here. I don't know what the hell I'm ordering. First of all, it's like, all I see is the name Tommy Cooper on a DVD box set. I see a little bit of what could possibly be on it, and I just click order it because I just want to have as much material of his as I can. And a lot of it is like overlap. A lot of it is repeat because he wasn't around for that long. I mean, he did have like a decades-long career, but the stuff that I've been able to get a hold of is mainly his stuff from Thames Television. I have nothing of his from ITV. I have nothing of his from LWT, London Weekend Television. So all I have to go on as far as my fandom currently is the Thames stuff. And it's like, I'm watching the Tommy Cooper Hour from I believe 1973, 74, and it's a good variety show. And you have to remember, this was at a time when variety shows were at their peak. I mean, they were not only popular over in America, but they were popular everywhere. Like, every country who had access to television had their own variety show. And this was, basically their version of a variety show. It's like, at the beginning they would have like Alan Cuthbertson this is the Tommy Cooper Hour from 73. They would have Alan Cuthbertson, critically acclaimed and wonderful, almost Shakespearean stage actor, basically playing Tommy Straight Man on this show. And he does a very, very good job. Very dry. And a lot of the sketches on that show were hilarious. I absolutely adored them. Like, I loved the restaurant sketch where he has to get a fish for a customer, and it's like Tommy has this personal attachment to this fish, and is like, "Oh, come on, Fred, time for walkies, Fred, time for walkies, come on, Fred." And he's like, But he doesn't like tartar sauce. Oh, you want the steak? Okay, I'll get you a steak. You know, and that stuff is hilarious. I love stuff like that. I love British sketches. And Tommy's main talent, which was being the funny magician with the fez, I love that as well. It's like he does that quite well in these shows. It's like he has such an energy in these shows. It's incredible. You know, and it's really sad when you watch this stuff. And then when you watch his like later stuff from like 78 and 1980, and you realize just how bad he got, you know, health-wise. I mean, you have to realize this man was smoking 40 cigars a day just so he could keep up with his shows, you know, and his drinking was almost comparable to Andre the Giant. I mean, this guy was a heavy drinker, heavy smoker, and the reason for that is because he had stage fright a lot of the time. And it's like, getting back to Tommy Cooper Hour, it's a wholesome family show. It's a really good, wholesome family variety show. Almost like something that the Osmonds would have put on. And, you know, it's like they have all these great musical acts. They have like the new vaudeville band. They have Lindsay DePaul, who actually later became a regular on Tommy Cooper's 1974 series, just titled Cooper. I don't know. I mean, it's a toss-up between Bill Cosby and Tommy Cooper, who had their name the most in all their TV shows. I mean, Cosby had the Bill Cosby Show, the Cosby Show, Cos, the new Bill Cosby Show, the Cosby Mysteries. And Tommy Cooper had Life with Cooper, Cooperama, another version of Life with Cooper, Life with Tommy. It's Tommy Cooper, the Tommy Cooper Hour, Cooper Just Like That, and Cooper's Half Hours. It's like, I think Tommy wins the crown in that department. And so that's another reason why it's so confusing being an American fan of a predominantly British interest field, because a lot of these shows are similarly titled, and it's hard to fully grasp everything. And so Tommy Cooper Hour, it's a wholesome show. It's a great show. Through its two iterations, I noticed they transitioned. They were going through a bit of a transition period before the show ended. They changed the look of the show. They changed the format a little bit, but it still retained its goodness, its awesomeness. And they would have so many good guests on there too. They would have like Vic Damone. They would have Topo Gigio. They would have they even had ABBA on an episode, which was really, really cool and awesome and interesting. And so that's Tommy Cooper Hour. It's a great variety show. Music acts, you know, singing, dancing, sketches. Tommy Cooper's famous failed magician bit that he always used to do, which was really, really good. And then we fast forward to 1980 with Cooper's Half Hours. This was probably the most surreal experience I've ever had, because it was like whiplash. Because you had the Tommy Cooper Hour from 1973, which is primarily a wholesome family show. There's nothing risque to be found here. There's no sex, no scantily clad people, and it's a really nice, well-to-do affair. And it's like something I wouldn't mind showing, like if I had like a daughter. It's something I wouldn't mind showing like my 4-year-old daughter. You know, it's perfectly appropriate. It's nice. It's family friendly. But then we get to Cooper's Half Hours, and it's like at the beginning of every of these shows, you have these girls basically wearing nothing, doing this singing and dancing at the beginning of every show. It's like right out of the gate, you get these girls in corsets and garters and stockings and top hats, and you get like weird camera angles, you get weird, almost sexual, gyrating dance moves. There's a beginning of one of them which is really, really bizarre, where they have like this, and the only reason why I point this out is because it's just so weird to me to see this, this black, almost pimp, just playing this piano and really getting into this. And then, one of the girls, just he grabs one of the girls, takes her into his arms, and it's like she's sitting on his lap while he's playing the piano, and she's all happy and doing her dancing and everything else. And it's so weird for me to see this because Tommy Cooper is not a raunchy guy. He's not a risque guy. It's like, who in the hell's decision was it to put this at the beginning of a Tommy Cooper family show? Okay, you have these, and the camera angles are so bizarre. It's like, were they on drugs when they did the show? I have to wonder. It's like they zoom in on the girl's crotch, they zoom in on the girl's thigh, they zoom in on the girl's ass, they zoom in on the almost every part of the girl's body, and it's like every show they're dressed like this though. It's like it's like whether they're wearing dresses that are like really tight, whether they're wearing dresses that are practically see-through. It's like at the beginning of every show you see these girls, just tap dancing, wearing basically nothing on stage. And the music, it's interesting. It's not like, family friendly music. It's like really modern, well, for the time, modern, like disco songs. A lot of it very sexual in nature. Like they have like Ease on Down the Road. They have a lot of the song names I'm not familiar with, because that isn't like my type of music, but it's like they're trying to set up something for a more adult male audience, and it's weird because Tommy Cooper has always appealed to kids. So why are they having these half-naked girls sexually gyrating their bodies at the top of a show featuring a funny magician and a red fez hat doing magic tricks? Why are they doing that? It doesn't make sense to me. And in an 83 interview, like one of the last interviews Tommy ever did, he's like, I don't like risque stuff. I don't like, crude, crass stuff. So it's like, it begs the question, why is this at the beginning of your show? I mean, I realize Tommy Cooper wasn't the producer of any of his shows, certainly. That was a fellow by the name of Royston Mayo. But it's like, it's a real kick in the balls because it's like, this is the only show in which he gets a writing credit. It's like every single joke he ever came up with was his own, but this is the only time he has ever gotten a writing credit on one of his TV shows, at least the ones that I have seen, which again are primarily the Thames productions, and it's a real slap in the face because it's like, you're gonna credit him for this? Okay, I could see crediting him for the Tommy Cooper Hour. I could even see crediting him for Cooper just like that. But this? Are you serious? And then, to top it all off, you have, I think, the real low point of the show, which is Irish folk singer Danny Doyle. You, as an Irishman, this was a slog to get through. And I'll tell you why. I love my Irish heritage. I'm very proud of it. But hearing this guy belt out these stereotypically Irish folk songs is really jarring. Because it's like, it's not just that it's Irish, it's stereotypically Irish. The dude looks like a leprechaun. and he has like the typical Irish, you know, in his voice, and it's like I'm just face palming throughout this whole show. The only time my hand is not on my face is when Tommy's on screen, and even when Tommy's on screen, it's like it's not the best because there's a really distinct difference between 1973 Tommy and 1980 Tommy. There was a lot that happened. I mean, it's like by 1980 he had already suffered a major heart attack in Italy, and his voice was now deeper and more groggy than ever. He almost sounded like Jack Klugman, and it's like he moves slow. He doesn't have the energy he had, you know. I mean, you could still see hints of the old Cooper charm, but it's like nothing that made him great in the 70s is really on display here, and it's really, really sad to see, you know, this once really awesome comic having to do basically a smut show. That's basically what I call this. I mean, I don't want to knock Danny Doyle too much because he's talented. He you know, he could sing, he can play the guitar real well, but it's like he's so stereotypically Irish. It made me just want to heave. You know, it made me want to go to a freaking pub, drink beer, and eat corned beef and cabbage all night. That's basically what this is like. That's how stereotypically Irish it is. It's like St. Paddy's Day every day. And the only interesting aspect of this whole show was the fact that Tommy's son, Thomas Henty, appeared on a couple episodes. And it's cool to see father and son interacting together on stage. But it's like, it does not make up for all the other batshit insanity we have to deal with. I mean, it's really sad to see, you know, how they went from a rather glamorous affair with Tommy Cooper Hour to a rather low-budget, smutty, trashy production in 1980. It's like, there must have been, I mean, I'm not a Tommy Cooper expert. I haven't read his biography yet. I do plan on getting that soon. But it's like, what went wrong between 1973 and 1980? I realize that a lot could happen between those two times, but it's like, why is he doing shit like this? Why? I mean, I read somewhere that Thames gave up on Tommy after the show because his drinking just became so much of a problem that he just couldn't be dealt with anymore. But it's like, even if he was like sober as hell, this show wouldn't have survived because it is so trashy, it is so low budget, it's so sleazy. I mean, from the sexually frustrated women dancing at the beginning of the show to Danny Doyle's stereotypically Irish folk songs, it's just, this show was doomed from the beginning. Same thing with Cooper, just like that. That show was horrible because they had these annoying sisters singing in every episode. And I don't want to knock kids. I don't want to knock kid performers. I don't, because I have to realize that they're trying their best and they were probably pushed into it by their parents. But they're not even trying in these shows. Not at all. And it's really a shame too, because you could see Tommy is trying to provide a good show, but it's like he's just groggy. He's not himself. He's slurring his words. You know, at the end of one episode, he shouts "rubbish, rubbish." Clearly, that was unscripted. You know, it's like, where was his mind? It's like Tommy was there physically on stage, but he wasn't there mentally almost. And he looked so much older too by that time. It's like his face was starting to sag. He looked so much older. And the way he was moving, it made him look like he was in his 80s almost. That's how bad it got. It's like he could barely walk. And it's sad to see that because he was so healthy and so full of life. Even in Cooper, which is from 1975, 76, he was still so full of life. What the hell happened between 77 and 78 is beyond me. The only thing that happened that I've read that happened in 1977 was that he had a heart attack in Rome, Italy. The first of many heart attacks he would have, one of which ultimately wound up costing him his life in a rather famous incident on live television, which for the sake of this discussion, I won't get into that. I will not get into the Her Majesty's Theater 1984 thing. I will not get into that. That's been talked about ad nauseum. That's not what he should be remembered for. I mean that's the thing. As an American, but as a fan of Tommy Cooper, it makes me upset and it infuriates me that whenever I talk about Tommy Cooper, the first thing that pops into people's heads is, oh yeah, the guy that died on stage. Yeah, but that's not his legacy. His legacy was providing laughter for millions of people and providing an escape when there was so much hell going on and so much political turmoil. You know, it's like, you go and see a Tommy Cooper show, you turn on the TV, watch Tommy Cooper, you forget your problems. You forget your $500 tax bill you gotta pay. You forget that your son trashed your 1952 Buick. You forget the fact that you don't have enough money to send your kid to college. You know, you forget all that. And it's like, all we're gonna remember him for is the fact that he died on stage. That's such a disservice to this guy who gave like nearly 50 years of his life to providing quality entertainment to people. I think, you know, it really is a disservice to not only Tommy Cooper but his fans in the UK that's all he's remembered for. And I want to state here on this show right now that even though I am an American, I see Tommy Cooper as much more than a heart attack victim. I see him as a brilliant artist, a man who, you know, was careful with his craft. I mean, if you've read any text on Tommy Cooper, you would know that he was a really well-organized comedian. It's like he kept a file of jokes. What other comedian do you know kept a carefully filed book of gags like Tommy Cooper did? And he built his own props. You know, it's like he was a jack of all trades. He was well-organized. He built his own props. You know, people don't give him enough credit over here in this country, and I think it's a real shame, because the man was talented. It's just sad that all we remember him for was the fact that he collapsed on stage on live television, and people were like laughing la la while he died. You know, he's so much more than that. He's so much more than that. But this show, Cooper's Half Hours, my God. I won't say it's a terrible show. I mean, I've seen worse shows, but this is definitely up there. This is definitely up there. I mean, I just like watching it because of how bizarre it is. But other than that, it's really not an enjoyable program. If you want to see a really good Tommy Cooper program, watch the Tommy Cooper Hour. That's so much better. Miles better than Cooper's Half Hours. Cooper's Half Hours is really a sad exercise in just how far gone a comedian can be within a matter of about 10 or so years. You know, and it's really sad because that was his last show. And essentially the end of his career. I mean, yeah, he made guest spots here and there after that, but that was essentially his last regular show. You know, and that's the way his career is going to go out after he gave 50 years of his life to it. Kind of pitiful, if you ask me. You know, I know that he had a really bad drinking problem, but really, that couldn't have been worked out. They couldn't have staged like an intervention or something. They couldn't have tried harder to get him out of that. I don't know. I mean, I haven't read his full story. I haven't read everything behind the scenes of what they tried to do or if there was an intervention. I haven't read the John Fisher book yet. And so maybe I should get off my soapbox and, you know, go read a book, you know, and everything else. But I'm just looking at this from the perspective of an American fan who has studied up on comedy, who has studied up on comedians' careers, and I'm taking that experience and I'm taking that knowledge and that expertise and I'm applying it to Tommy Cooper. And maybe I should. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe it's a bad decision to. Maybe it's a bad decision to compare his career to like the Marx Brothers or whatever. But I'm telling you, Cooper's half hours. What a slog to get through. What a slog to get through. Anyway, alright guys, I'm going to end this show because my computer's about to die. And I gotta go to bed. So, I'll be talking to you guys later. Just keep in mind, Tommy Cooper was much more than a comedian who died on stage. He was a guy who gave like 50 years of his life to like a people that needed those laughs. And I think he got the short end of the stick with a lot of the material he was given. I mean, the fact that Cooper's Half Hours was the only show he was ever credited for other than being the star, I think was a big slap in the face to him. Because knowing Tommy Cooper and studying up and knowing what I do know, he was a huge perfectionist. He didn't want to turn out anything that wasn't quality. And so I see Cooper's Half Hours as having his name in it as being a writer as a big slap in the face to him. Like, really? You're going to attach my name to this drivel? You know? I mean, look at these girls on stage. I mean, I know Tommy Cooper was a bit of a playboy, but I know that even he had standards and he had limits to what he wanted on his shows, and I think that those limits were overstretched a little too much. But so's life, so's the entertainment business. It says corrupt over there as it is over here. So, alright guys. If you don't mind me, I'm going to go on Amazon and buy the John Fisher book so I could actually, learn something. But again, these are my opinions. This is, how I interpret. This is how an American fan of Tommy Cooper, who really does not have access to a lot of the material, this is how I'm looking at the situation. So if there are any UK people out there who might get upset with this, I apologize. But anyway, guys, I want to thank you for listening to Cuddys World. I hope you all have a great night, and a great day, week, month, year. And I will be back. I'm planning on covering On the Memory Machine next. I think we're going to cover Lizzie McGuire, a favorite show from my childhood. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to just be watching endless hours of Lizzie McGuire to prep and listening to music from the show and just immersing myself into that time period. And I have some cool personal stories to tell on that show. Alright guys, this has been Gino Cuddy. This has been Cuddys World. This has been an Entangled Web podcast production. It's 2:18 a.m. on May 18th, 2017, Thursday, and I hope you guys have a great one. All right, peace.
Justice, lead on everything.